It seems that Xbox woke up today and said enough is enough, and it's time for some violence against PlayStation and the CMA over the whole Xbox Activision deal. There is so much here to talk about, and we're going to have a good time. Let's get into it. Alright, I'm gonna forgo the usual intro about being the man with a million and asking people to like and subscribe because we have just so much here to talk about regarding everybody's favorite topic in the world, the Xbox Activision deal, and what PlayStation has been saying behind the scenes to regulators, in this case specifically the CMA, because they released a long-ass document going over everything that they sort of discovered during Phase 1 about how it might lessen competition. And let me tell you, Microsoft and Xbox is having none of this. They decided, you know what? Time for playing nice is being over. The gloves are off. We're going full-bore violence, essentially calling out the CMA. And when you go over this information, I don't know what the title of this video is actually going to be. I actually had another video planned today, but this one took precedence, so I'll cover what I wanted to talk about today in tomorrow's video. But my God, some of these PlayStation arguments that the CMA are holding on to are just absolutely absurd and ridiculous for a neutral party to actually espouse. It really does seem to me that the CMA, the UK government body here, is more interested in protecting the well-being of PlayStation's market leader position, their bottom line, their revenue, rather than looking at how this would be better for competition or how it might be actually better for consumers. So here we go once again, everyone's favorite topic, certainly mine, and I say that with a hint of sarcasm because this has been going on for quite some time, and I'm kind of getting to the point now where it's like, all right, enough is enough. So GameIndustry.biz says that the CMA is concerned that the deal will harm PlayStation and other multi-game subscription offerings as Microsoft may withhold Activision Blizzard content from them. The body is also concerned that Microsoft may use Activision Blizzard alongside other Microsoft services to outcompete rivals such as Google, Amazon, and Nvidia in the game streaming space. Quote, there is a realistic prospect of a substantial lessening of competition in gaming consoles, multi-game subscription services, and cloud gaming services, the firm said in an extensive document. Now, this is quite a turnaround from just last week, where we had the Brazil-Cade look over everything and basically come to the conclusion that, this isn't a big deal. Even if Microsoft has a competitive advantage in subscription services, they didn't think it would require a government body to come in and intercede or block the deal. And they even said, hey, Call of Duty is not as essential as you're making it out to be. And Sony, you've been the market leader for basically 20 years. You have so much brand loyalty among your followers, the highest console base. They were basically saying, Sony, why are you so concerned about this? It's just one game. And even if Xbox went back on their statement to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation, you would be perfectly fine. But it certainly seems that Sony's telling the CMA that, I don't know, they might get absolutely whitewashed, that Microsoft is about to go from having no games 1 year to being an absolute monopoly. It's kind of ridiculous at face value, because I really don't see how Sony, as big as they are, the biggest worldwide gaming brand, if they were to actually lose Call of Duty completely, I don't see how that would actually torpedo the PlayStation brand at all. In fact, I would probably argue PlayStation would still sell the most consoles. But that's just my own speculation. Maybe Xbox does outsell PlayStation if they have Call of Duty exclusive. I'm not sure we'll ever find out. But let's get to the actual document, which will highlight how hypocritical PlayStation is regarding this whole Call of Duty thing. So the document says, third-party views also covered the merged entity's ability to engage in partial foreclosure strategies, which is basically saying Xbox might really harm their competitors if they were to put Call of Duty on Game Pass and didn't offer it elsewhere, stuff like that. Sony told the CMA that even if Call of Duty games remained available on PlayStation following the merger, the merged entity would still be able to engage in partial foreclosure by increasing the differentiation between versions of COD available on Xbox and on PlayStation. According to SIE, gamers may expect that Call of Duty on Xbox will include extra content and enhanced interoperability with the console hardware, in addition to any benefits from the membership and Xbox Game Pass. Sony submitted these factors are likely to influence gamers' choice of console. I honestly can't believe that a neutral government body wrote this out and is like, Sony's telling us this, because the irony is so thick in this statement, I'm actually going to drown over it. Because let's dissect this here. Sony's saying, listen, even if Call of Duty remained on PlayStation, some people are going to leave to go to Xbox, and that's really potentially going to hurt us. Because some gamers are going to expect that Call of Duty will be better on Xbox, either with enhanced features or free through Xbox Game Pass or extra content, which is the exact thing Sony does today. This is the whole thing about all this, is that PlayStation has built its entire market-leading empire by getting timed exclusives from third-party partners or timed exclusive content from the biggest third-party games in the world, with Call of Duty being one of them. So Sony's telling the CMA that it would really hurt them if Xbox engaged in the very things that we currently engage in. They currently sign these deals for exclusive time content. So Sony's basically saying to everybody, it's okay for us, the market leader, to engage in this sort of anti-competitive practices. But as soon as the competitor tries to engage in the very same practices that we've built our entire empire on, we got a problem with that. We're gonna go cry to the regulators and say, you have to stop this. What makes this even more funny and more hypocritical is the ink is barely even dry on the exclusive content that PlayStation is getting from Hogwarts Legacy. So, you know what, Jim Ryan? Your lawyers at Sony, you seem to be a good job here with the CMA. But you know what? When I smell bullshit, when I see bullshit, I'm gonna call out bullshit. And the thing is, Sony knows that this stuff works because they've been engaging in it for generations. They know that it actually drives people to their ecosystem, which is what they told the CMA, that it's going to influence gamers' choice of console. So it's okay for Sony to engage in those practices, but it's not okay for Microsoft. How does that even work? This whole argument here from Sony is completely disingenuous in every facet of the word. And you know, I've always been someone that when people brought up PlayStation's contracts regarding parity and how that might actually affect how games look and run in the Series X in a bad way, I've always said I'm not really sure if those contracts are real, and if they are real, maybe it refers to content. But when you see this and you see Sony complaining about, oh my god, Call of Duty might have extra content on Xbox, which is something PlayStation currently does, but also enhanced interoperability with the console hardware, meaning they're worried that the Series X version of Call of Duty in the future will be way better than the PlayStation 5 version, which says to me, if they're worried about the Xbox version being better, it's probably because it can be better, and maybe Sony's the one holding it back from being better. That's sort of just my speculation. Well, if you thought Xbox was going to take this all sitting down and let the CMA run amok with their findings about all this, well, you got another thing coming, because Phil Spencer, Satya Nadella have a lot riding on this deal, $70 billion, and they essentially came out swinging. They fired back, and we're going to read through it all because it's really interesting, and Microsoft and Xbox paint themselves as the underdogs. In fact, they sort of say, we suck at gaming at times, which is funny, but they're trying to show that PlayStation isn't this vulnerable system or company, and that they're not trying to be a monopoly or ruin the gaming industry. It's interesting. So this is what Microsoft had to say. The CMA's concerns are misplaced for the following reasons. Number one, Sony PlayStation has been the largest console platform for over 20 years, with an installed base of over 150 million consoles, making it larger than Nintendo and more than double the size of Xbox. But this goes to the whole thing where Xbox is saying, listen, we're not the market leader. Sony's double the size of us. Why are you so concerned about Sony's market leader position? You should be concerned about consumers, and they'll get to that point. Two, Sony engages in conduct today which is reflective of its market power in console gaming, including increasing prices of its consoles without fear of losing market share, and something that's been sort of clipped out here or redacted. And that's true. Only somebody that has the market leader position, only somebody that doesn't fear any sort of competitor can raise the price of their console during a time of inflation where everybody's scrounging for money and really not have any pushback against it and have consumers buy it at the same amount. Number 3, the suggestion that the incumbent market leader with clear and enduring market power could be foreclosed by the third largest provider as a result of losing access to one title is not credible. There are more than 4,000 games available on the PlayStation Store. Yeah, and I tend to agree with Xbox on this one. Even if you lost Call of Duty, this idea that Sony would be foreclosed and the entirety of what PlayStation has built over the last 25, 30 years, however long it's been, is ridiculous. The evidence shows that less than whatever percentage of PlayStation's monthly active users are playing Call of Duty. Even without all those games, a highly inoperable outcome from a hypothetical foreclosure strategy, the PlayStation gamer base would remain significantly larger than Xbox is today, which is something I said at the beginning of the video, that even if Call of Duty went exclusive, I still think PlayStation would be bigger. It's just that Xbox would be closer to PlayStation, and PlayStation would lose that market share and revenue, which is something Jim Ryan doesn't want, which is why they're fighting so hard with the CMA here. And since the transaction was announced, Sony has acquired several game studios, including Bungie, developer of the popular online game Destiny 2, Lizangle, and Savage Games, and a minority interest in From Software, the developer of the biggest game of 2022, Elden Ring, among other hit games. This complements Sony's existing minority shareholding in Epic Games, publisher of Fortnite, strong first-party game catalog, and extensive portfolio of exclusive arrangements with third-party publishers. There were over 200 exclusive first and third-party titles on PlayStation in 2021, nearly 5 times as many as Xbox. Now, this is sort of where Microsoft is saying, well, we don't have nearly as much as Sony. 280 exclusive games that PlayStation has in 2021, over 5 times. Xbox is basically saying, we don't have as many games as PlayStation, and some will take this to be Xbox has no games at all. But when you look at it from first party, PlayStation only put out 2, Returnal and Ratchet last year, and they had Deathloop exclusive for an entire year, while Xbox had about 4, Microsoft Flight Sim, but Psychonauts 2 wouldn't count because it was on PlayStation, Forza Horizon 5, Age of Empires 4, as well as Halo Infinite. So the rest of those would be third party, mostly indie games and stuff like that, but it's a way for Microsoft to say, look, PlayStation is just way bigger than we are if you look at exclusive games and all these sort of partnerships they have with third parties. In short, Sony is not vulnerable to a hypothetical foreclosure strategy, and the referral decision incorrectly relies on self-serving statements by Sony, which significantly exaggerates the importance of Call of Duty to it and neglect to account for Sony's clear ability to competitively respond. While Sony may not welcome increased competition, it is the ability to adapt and compete. Gamers will ultimately benefit from this increased competition and choice. I mean, I should point out that, of course, Microsoft has a self-serving interest here to make sure the deal goes through. They're presenting themselves as kind of pathetic, and I haven't gotten to all the quotes yet. In some of these areas, like, hey, we're third place, we're last place, we don't really have a lot of exclusive games compared to Sony, we just don't know how to game good. We certainly couldn't be a monopoly, so there is that to play into. But when Microsoft says this, and it's something I've been saying since day one, yeah, Sony's going to protect their bottom line. They're going to protect their interest. And that's what Sony's doing here. They're being hypocritical about it in every facet of the word. They're using disingenuous arguments where I'm literally choking on the irony. It is so thick. They're over-exaggerating the importance to Call of Duty, and they're neglecting just how big PlayStation is across the world and the gamers in general, and all the great first-party titles that they put out, and all the exclusive deals they have with third-party, right? They're overplaying how much this is going to hurt them. And I've always said that I think this would increase competition between the two companies, because last generation, Sony just ran wild with everything. They didn't have anybody to compete with because Microsoft couldn't stop themselves from tripping over their own feet. Now it's a different Xbox. Satya Nadella is 100% in. I think if Xbox got Activision Blizzard, it would be a good thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing. Xbox would get more powerful, And it would probably put them on equals footing with Sony, but Sony doesn't want that. Sony doesn't want the increased competition, which is exactly what Microsoft said here. They don't welcome the increased competition, but gamers should want increased competition because that is how we get things. That is how prices come down. You have a Sony who is so secure in their position, they don't care about raising the price of their first-party games. They don't care about raising the price of consoles. They don't care about charging $10 for updates or whatever. They can do whatever they want because Xbox isn't sufficient competition. But in a world where Xbox get Activision Blizzard, where Game Pass grows and they can put Call of Duty on there, make Call of Duty better on Xbox, market Call of Duty for Xbox, which is something PlayStation doesn't want, and you have some of those players choose to play on Xbox, but that's just competition and choice in effect, which is the thing Sony is arguing against, which is exactly what they say here. Microsoft concluded this area of the CMA's concerns by saying that if gamers do choose to leave PlayStation for Xbox, it will be because Xbox is offering choice in its approach to how games can be bought. Quote, should any consumers decide to switch from a gaming platform that does not give them a choice as to how to pay for new games, like PlayStation, to one that does, like Xbox, then that is the sort of consumer switching behavior that the CMA should consider welfare enhancing and indeed encourage. It is not something the CMA should be trying to prevent. Now, there's actually a lot more here that I wanted to talk about, but we're already approaching a long-ass video. We're 21 minutes in, although when I do edit this, it'll probably end up being 17 minutes. So I'm gonna have to end the video here, and we'll just talk more about this tomorrow because there is so much more to talk about and things that happened yesterday that I want to make mention. So that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, check out the Patreon, share this out on social media, and please hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.